Good morning.
Hare Krishna, dear devotee.
Hare Krishna. Just tell me your speaker. Thank you for being here.
Ooh.
There will be more people joining. That's probably not something you want to hear, but there will be more people joining. And I want to introduce you to those who are present. This is the I say it's a powerhouse as a shadow. She's in the shadow of her famous husband, Madhavananda Prabhu. But if you ever see give a lecture, he forgets a verse and then he turns into either left or right, and then she tells what the verse is. That means she has acquired similar amount of knowledge as her husband. So we're going to hear, not to put pressure on you, but we would like to hear what you have for us. And we really appreciate that you are with us this morning here. You're in India, right?
Actually, we are in Hungary.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't.
Fabulous. So please take it away. Yeah, do as you wish. I'll be muting myself, but I will hear you and see you.
Okay. Thank you. Dear devotees, I am here on the kind invitation, sort of like an order, for Sarvatma Prabhu. Please bless me in your own best interest, so that I may say something that will be inspiring and nourishing, and which will please my Gurudeva and Srila Prabhupada. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 27th verse. Before we speak on Bhagavatam, our Gurudev taught us to offer some prayers and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm sure you know some of these prayers. Please chant them with me. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayeet. Vede ramayanishchaiva purane bharate tatha adavante cha madhye cha harisavatra giyate. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam. Paramananda he Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakore Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinkanami Vanda Vela Parikoribe Chakadola Se chakadolanka payare, manamora nirantare rahu, ha Krishna boli jiva jau, ha Krishna boli jau jiva, mote udara radhadava, mote udara radhadava. O supremely blissful Madhava, nectar is coming from your lotus feet. Having drunk that nectar, blissfully sing, Hari, Hari. Taking the name of Hari, bind a raft on which Lord Jagannath will ferry you across this ocean of material existence. May my mind always remain at the lotus feet of that Lord Jagannath, who has very large, round eyes. With my mind fixed there, may I call out, O Krishna, and give up my life. O husband of Radharani, please deliver me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm just going to read the verse. This is 5:527. Manova chodve karane hitasya sakshat kritam me paribarhanam hi vina pumanye namaha vimohat kritan tapashan navimoktumishet. Mana, mind, vachaha, words, drik, sight, karana, of the senses, ihitasya, of all activities for maintenance of body, society, friendship, and so on. Sakshat kritam, directly, directly offered. Me, of me. Paribarhanam, worship. He, because. Vina, without. Uman, any person. Yena, which. Mahavimohat, from the great illusion. Hitanta Pashat, exactly like the stringent rope of Yamaraj. Na, not. Vimoktum, to become free. Ishet, becomes able. Srila Prabhupada's translation. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, a living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamaraj's stringent rope. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As stated in the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvapadi Vinimuktam Tatparatvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. This is the conclusion of Bhakti. All the time Lord Rshabhadeva has been stressing devotional service, and now he is concluding by saying that all the senses should be engaged in the Lord's service. There are 5 senses by which we gather knowledge, and 5 senses with which we work. These 10 senses and the mind should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. Without engaging them in this way, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. I'm going to read the verse again. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, the living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamaraj's stringent rope. Mukam karoti vacharam pandullandaya tirigrinda sitatam aham vandeshi gurundinatayam paramhandanam. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha speaks about 2 kinds of speakers. He says that there is the Sarag Vakta and the Nirag Vakta. Sarag Vakta is someone who has material attachments, and Nirag Vakta is someone who doesn't have these. So he says that we should hear from someone who doesn't have material attachments because their words will touch our heart. So what on earth am I doing here? But by the order of Sarvajna Prabhu and by the mercy of my Gurudevas, I'm somehow here. Our Gurudev Shishimad Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he would speak about the kirtan of the disciple. He would say that first we should hear. We should just hear from our Gurudevs. And what else can give us any hope than hearing from him? But then after a certain amount of hearing, our Gurudev will instruct us that now you do kirtan. You do kirtan of whatever you have heard until now. And that kirtan is another name for Shravan. That kirtan is for the self-purification of the disciple. And that kirtan is just remembering what we have heard from our seniors, from our Gurudevas. Otherwise, we are deaf, dumb, and crippled. We are not able to speak anything about Krishna. Of course, Bhakti, Bhakti, and Bhagavan, we are not the vrittis of the material world. We are out of this world. How can we touch it? How can we touch Krishna? How can we touch Bhagavatam? But by the mercy of Gurudevas and by repeating their words, if we perform this as service, then it might bring them a little pleasure. Just as a 5-year-old child's so-called dancing might bring a little pleasure to his father. So I have a lot of seniors here. Please, devotees, please bless me. When I first read this verse, I actually thought about Divya, because the verse starts by saying that the true activity of the sense organs is to engage fully in my service. So I was actually thinking that here is Divya dressing the deities, beautiful Radha Damodar, beautiful Radha Govinda, and that's the true activity of the senses. She has already reached perfection. I wanted to a little bit go through the different senses, the different knowledge acquiring senses that Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about here, and wanted to listen a little bit to Srila Prabhupada, because I love hearing his voice, and it's I feel it's really important that we hear his voice when he tells us about Krishna and about our position and how to go to him. So I wanted to start with that. And do I have screen sharing? Yes, I believe I do. Wonderful. Did it work? Just want you to be able to follow in writing what Srila Prabhupada is speaking. So I'm going to share my screen here. Oops. That's not the one I need to share, of course. Please help me. Krishna, I can't. Krishna, I can't. I don't seem to be able to help me. I don't know. I have the file. Yeah, I have the file, but I just okay. The audio I have, the text I wanted to share also. There it is. Okay. I have it. Weird. Okay, it looks like I'm just not able to do it. It doesn't come up here, even though I open it all here.
Krishna-Kunda Devi, do you need assistance with something?
Yeah, it's okay. No, I don't. No, I'm just fumbling, but I try my best and feel,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Do you need to share the screen or anything?
Okay, I just.
Milganetri. Milganetri. Milganetri means staring eyes like three deer. On Krishna and Radharani used to pass through the forest of Vrindavan. These deers and stags, they are looking, staring at. When Krishna had passed this way, these animals were also attracted to Krishna. The birds, everyone, the flowers, the fruits, everyone. Vrindavan means everything engaged in Krishna. So, if all of you similarly engage yourself always in Krishna's service, this is Vrindavan. Vrindavan is not that, as Krishna is not located, he is located, but by his inconceivable potency, he can simultaneously become located and distributed. Golokaiva nivasati akila. He is always in Goloka Vrindavan, but still he is everywhere. That is God's omnipotence. We say that God is omnipotent, but we do not know what does it mean. The omnipotence means simultaneously to do or to act or to remain everywhere. That is Krishna.
The Srila Prabhupada here is giving initiation to devotees, and she's giving the name Briganetri. It's so sweet, staring eyes like a she deer. And then he explains how Briganetri, Mataji, Briganetri Devi, how she should be searching for Krishna everywhere, and how her eyes should always look for Krishna. And Prabhupada goes on to speak about how Krishna is present everywhere as super soul in the material world. He remains in everyone's heart, and you can try to see Krishna there. But Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan. But we should not think, he's telling Briganetri that you should not think that Krishna is not here, that he is only in Goloka Vrindavan, because just like electricity is there in the power station, but it's also there in this plug, similarly Krishna also can fully manifest himself everywhere. So his location is Goloka Vrindavan, but still he's everywhere.
Still he's everywhere. So, see Krishna in the staring eyes. Where is Krishna? Here is Krishna is in your heart. Ishvara Saloka, he is within the atom. He is everywhere. So, by service, we can realize. Other Sri Krishna Namani Navhave Graham Indriya. If we want to see Krishna, touch Krishna with our these material senses, it is not possible. These senses are to be purified. How it is purified? Sevanmukhe juhadu. The service. And where from the service begins? The service begins juhadu, from the tongue. The service begins from you chant. Therefore, we are giving you the beads to chant. That is the beginning of service. Chant.
So in this verse, Srimad, in this verse, Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about fully engaging, truly engaging our senses, and all the all the senses in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada explains here that this full service is starting with the tongue. It's an interesting verse that he quotes. He quotes this verse from Padma Purana, Shri Krishna-Navadi Navavedgraya Indriya, that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also quotes in Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This verse says that no one can understand the Supreme Lord with these materially contaminated senses. We can't touch him, we can't see him. We cannot see him with these material senses, with these material eyes. Of course, only Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Only when the eyes are smeared with the pulp of love for Krishna. Otherwise, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita very clearly explains that he reserves the right to not reveal himself to the mudhas who don't accept him. How can we see him with these material eyes? We cannot. But then the second part of the verse says, Sevo mukhe hi jivado. With these same senses, with this Swayameva Spuratyada, he will manifest himself, Spuratyada, if with these same senses we perform the same activities of devotional service as service to our spiritual master. In other words, there is a contradiction in the verse. We cannot understand Krishna, we cannot hear Krishna, we cannot speak about Krishna, we cannot hear his name, unless it's Seva Mukhe. It's by service that we can realize it. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary to this verse, which I just summarized. And I find it fascinating that Srila Prabhupada, whenever he quotes this verse, most often he actually refers to it. And even here, he starts by speaking about you try to see Krishna with the staring eyes like a doe, and you try to see him, but you won't see him, but by service we can realize. He said this very early when he starts speaking about this. So then Swayameva Spuratyada, Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes can manifest in this way. I wanted to, so this is about the eyes. I wanted to also speak something about the tongue, because of course, Srila Prabhupada, he says here that this service starts with the tongue. The tongue has two functions. That's to chant Krishna's names and to respect Krishna's prasadam. And if we engage the tongue in these two activities, that's the only way that we can engage it properly. And Prabhupada many places refers to it in Bhagavad Gita in a number of purports. And a lot of places he explains that if the tongue is not controlled, then the other senses we will not be able to control. He also, I'm just going to try to. he also this verse also speaks about hearing, and I wanted to share another thing that Prabhupada says in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is about hearing. I don't know if any of the devotees could help me and read this quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam's purport from Srila Prabhupada.
The nectar of the holy name.
Thank you.
Yes. In this age, hearing is more important than thinking, because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation. But if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Krishna and the sound vibration Krishna are non-different. So if one loudly vibrates Hare Krishna, he will be able to think of Krishna immediately. This process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preached it so nicely for the benefit of all humanity. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:24-35 purport.
Thank you very much. I always like this quote very much because I feel that it's so appropriate. Kali Yuga Namarupe Krishna Avatar. In this age, I really have, unfortunately, personal experience about how in this age it's not possible to do anything with the mind. However, this Kali Yuga is full of faults, but there is this one quality that simply by chanting the name of Krishna, one can receive Krishna Prema, one can go home to Krishna. So sometimes the mind, which is also one of the senses, it's really not possible to control it in any other way. And we get mental when we chant. But if we just learn to hear, then Krishna himself, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, Krishna himself, who is in the heart, takes the role of a sweeper. How merciful is that? He takes the role of the sweeper and cleans our heart, cleans out our ears first, and then cleans our heart. When I saw this verse, then I remembered Bhaktivinoda Thakur's famous song Gopinath, because naturally when there is a talk about the senses, we all have them. Prabhupada said even that he had them. Of course, he's all purified, but he was really very kind to us and very, very, very merciful how he dealt with us. So I immediately remember this song from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gopinath, where he sings Gopinath, Anata deki amore, Tumi Rishikesha, Rishikadamiya, Tarohe Samskriti Ghore. O Gopinath, you are Rishikesha, the Lord of the senses. See me so helpless. Please control these senses of mind and deliver me from this dark and perilous worldly existence. Golaya legici fasa, ripasidhori bandhana chidiya, vinode korohadasa. O Gopinath, I am bound around the neck by the noose of materialism. Please take up your sword of mercy and cut my bonds and make Bhaktivinoda your humble servant. This verse also speaks about how this is the only way to get out of the noose of materialism. It's only by taking shelter of Krishna in all different ways. And this starts from basic sense control that Krishna, I mean, when Arjuna talks to Krishna, he's saying that, the mind is, what is it? To subdue it is more difficult than controlling the wind. And the mind is controlling all the other senses. So it's like, it's impossible. Just as it's impossible to take to stop the motion of the wind with our hands. But Krishna explains to him that that it's very difficult to curb this restless mind, but it's possible. It's possible by suitable practice and by detachment. But above all, there is something else that I always find the most helpful in controlling the mind, which is also, of course, when there is in the third canto, when Kapila Shiksha is there, when the classification of the different material elements are there, then a couple of times, also in the 11th canto, when Krishna speaks to Uddhava, the same thing we find that with these 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses, with both of them, the mind is classified. So this mind, the controlling of this mind is like by suitable practice and detachment is not really such an easy thing, but I find that the most important thing for me personally in this has always been serving my Guru Maharaj, because that's the only thing that I found where the emotions are so invested that automatically you want to do something and automatically you want to engage all your senses in their service. Just as in the Bhagavatam it says that Guru Haresh Charanupasanaastro. Take up the weapon, the astra of Guru Haresh Charana Astra, Charana Upasana Astra. The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and of your Guru Maharaj. If you take up the weapon of worshipping their lotus feet with our service, then it is possible. The translation of this verse I'm just going to read. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Prabhupada says in the purport that the one easy weapon to conquer the mind with is neglect, because the mind is always telling us that we should go do this, do that. But if we neglect the mind's demands and instead take Guru Hare Charanupasanaastro, however crazy our mind is and however much lacking we are in qualities, if we somehow try to serve our Gurudevas, then maybe the Vaishnavas will be merciful to us. We can see that Srila Prabhupada's disciples did amazing, amazing things at an age, at a time in their lives where they sort of barely knew the regulative principles, never mind being able to follow them fully, barely know anything about the philosophy. None of the books have been practically present yet, maybe one or two. And they did amazing things. And open centers, and because that attachment to Srila Prabhupada was so strong in them that made them be able to climb mountains and speak eloquent words and see the stars in the sky. I wanted to mention just as so we mentioned the eyes, we mentioned the mind, which is the central of all the senses, and I wanted to speak a little bit more about hearing, although we started that, but I got diverted. I wanted to share something with you, which was very beautiful. We just heard a couple of days ago. With my husband, we often watch Srila Prabhupada's memories. These beautiful DVDs, All Glories to the Vaishnavas, really. So much work must have gone into that, but it's really amazing for us. I myself got so much from this. And in one of these DVDs, I think it's DVD 44, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it is. The devotees are talking about a bhajan that I'm just trying to find the details of it. Please forgive me. Just a second. Here it is. Here it is. It was Gokula Ranjana Prabhu. With Prabhupada's permission, Jai Sachinandana Prabhu sang a bhajan for Prabhupada while Prabhupada waited for his flight. He sang one of the classic ones that Prabhupada also had sung. And Jai Sachinandana made every intonation, every syllable, just the way Prabhupada had done it. Prabhupada closed his eyes, and every now and then he'd look over at Jai Sachinandana. When the song was finished, Prabhupada leaned over and said, "You listen very well," which I thought was interesting. He didn't say you chant very well. He said you listen very well. Prabhupada said that the qualification his spiritual master had noted in him was that you actually know how to hear and listen. As you know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told about Prabhupada that he hears nicely. I marked him because he hears nicely. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada here, very fortunate, Jai Sachinandana Prabhu said that you listen very well. And actually it also reminded me of what our Gurudev would say, that the kirtan of the disciple is another name of Shravan, one who heard very attentively, then he can repeat it exactly. It was just an enlivening thing that I wanted to share with you. Srila Prabhupada, in this same video, mentioned something. Udayananda Prabhu says this, that if you do Guru Puja every day with your godbrothers and god sisters, then any problems you have between each other will be resolved. And Udayananda Prabhu was saying that after like 1 hour Guru Puja, Prabhupada made this comment. And he really stressed the importance of Guru Puja. And he mentions that he has this experience that when we do Guru Puja together every day for Srila then we actually learn to appreciate our God brothers and God sisters, our family more. And I was thinking about that because there is something that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that I wanted to mention today. I'm sure that all devotees have many times heard extensively about the angas of bhakti and about engaging all of our senses, like Maharaj Ambarish engaged all his senses in all the 9 processes of devotional service. But one thing that we sometimes, I feel, could pay attention more to is performing these services together with Vaishnavas. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, for me, it was an astonishing thing. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the angas of bhakti don't give the bliss, don't give as much bliss as they could unless they are performed together with other Vaishnavas, in the association of Vaishnavas. And this is such an important aspect of engaging our senses in Krishna's service fully, because we can fully engage in the senses, fully engage our senses in Krishna's service when there is emotional investment. And I mean, there are some of those advanced Vaishnavas who are able to cry for Krishna. And this is, of course, our Gurudev's project in Bhuvaneshwar. He opened the crying school, he would say. But a lot of us, we are struggling sometimes to have our japa chanted or have our service covered, quote unquote. And I feel that there is nothing more painful and unfortunate than devotional service becoming a chore. And so when we have this association with devotees who have taste, because we all have our challenges and usually they won't come at the same time as someone else's challenges. So when we are managing to stay in the association of Vaishnavas and we can serve together, and always there is somebody among us who has that enthusiasm at the peak and he can pull all the other Vaishnavas with them. And that's such a crucial aspect. In fact, in the first canto of Bhagavatam, there is this verse when the Prachetas were performing their austerities on the direction of Lord Shiva, and finally the Lord appeared to them. And then Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Vram Vrinidvam Badram Boyuyam Me Nipanandanaha Sohadena Pritagdharmas Tushtoham Soridenava. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me." So when we are able to serve and engage all of our senses in Krishna's service together, then Krishna becomes especially pleased. In this verse, talking about true engagement of the senses, this reminded me of Pushpavan, which in the Kama-Gayatri mantra, and Gurudev would speak about how Vaishnava Gayatri is Kama-Gayatri. He would always stress this. And of course, here Kamadev is called Madan Mohan, who is the deity who establishes a relationship with Krishna. And then Pushpavan is Govinda, who accepts our devotional service, the Abhideya Murti, and he carries an arrow made of flowers. And what are these flowers? These, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami speaks about these 5 arrows, which is the beauty of Krishna, the touch of his broad chest, the fragrance of his body, the sound of his flute, and I'm sure the sound of his voice, and the nectar of his lips, which followers of Shri Rupa Manjari aspire to taste by serving Srimati Radharani's servants' lotus feet. And then, of course, there is Alanga, who is Gopi Jana Vallabha, who satisfies all the gopis and who is the ultimate goal of life. But engaging all of our senses, Krishna is so kind. He's actually giving us so much opportunity. And sometimes I really feel that we have our challenges, and especially at this time in the world, there are so many kind of major issues, and it seems that astrologically even such a period that there is all this war, quarrel, conflict all of the time, and we forget to appreciate these amazing gifts. So I just wanted to draw attention to that, or remind myself of that, really speaking. Of course, the epitome of somebody fully engaging their senses in Krishna's service is the gopis. And I wanted to mention this verse, which is from the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, really beautiful verse. Yadohane vahanane matano pare papenken kanalbhavadi tokshana majanado gayanti chayna manurakta deyo shukantyo danya vajastya ukamachittayana. The ladies of Raja are the most fortunate of women, because with their minds fully attached, Anurakta Diya, they have such attachment to Krishna, and with their throats always choking up, Ashokantya, and with tears in their eyes, they don't have a problem putting their hearts into it. They constantly sing about Krishna like that. And Srila Vyasadeva explains how they sing. They sing while making the cows. They sing by winnowing grain, by churning butter, by gathering cow dung for fuel, by riding on swings, meaning that they swing and then take care of their crying babies, because of course we know babies like swings. It's good for their chakras, balances them. They sing about Krishna by sprinkling the ground with water. They sing about Krishna by cleaning their houses. By their exalted Krishna consciousness, they automatically acquire all desirable things. This is 10:44:15. And Jiva Goswami, when he explains this verse, he says that even when the gopis couldn't see Krishna, like Briganetra, even when the gopis couldn't see Krishna, they were gazing with staring eyes, they were looking for him, and he manifested to them as if he was present. So sometimes Krishna appeared to them as a sporty, because they were singing, because they were constantly crying for him. And we are most unfortunate, says Jiva Goswami, because we don't sing like that. We do something, we chant our japa somehow, but we don't sing like that. Of course, that's talking about myself. I know devotees who are able to sit in a kirtan for 12 hours with closed eyes in the same position and just chant and chant and chant in the kirtan. But some devotees can do it. I hope they bless me. And then Jiva Goswami says here that this last line can be translated into two ways. It's really sweet. That he made his appearance, Krishna made his appearance in their hearts wherever they went, Urukama Chittayana, Urukama, so wherever they went, he appeared in their heart. Or their thoughts went to him wherever he went. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says something very, very sweet, that Krishna himself, due to being completely attached, Anurakta Diya, to the Vraj Gopis, always carries them in his heart. Urukrama Chittayana. So it's not just that it's reciprocal, because when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, the gopis are crying after him. But in Brihad Bhagavatam, Sanatana Goswami and in Lalita Madhava Goswami explains that Krishna also reciprocates with these feelings. He's crying for them. He's waking up and his pillow is wet. He's fainting. Rshabhadeva speaks about how Krishna fainted in Dwarka, remembering Srimati Radharani and the gopis, and Narada came and, okay, let's get the chariot together, and eventually that became Ratha Yatra. So Krishna, he always carries those in his heart who are always crying and engaging all their senses in him. So I just feel that this is our hope, somehow rather, to be in the association of devotees and somehow rather not just think about getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, as this verse says, because we want to stop suffering, but just want to serve Krishna because he gets pleasure from it. Just very simply, because our Gurudev gets pleasure from it. I think that's all I'm going to try to say now. Thank you very much for tolerating me. If anybody has any corrections or comments, Dharaka Prabhu, or how do I do this? Can you unmute yourself? Or?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dear Mother, may you be blessed. I want to thank you for an extraordinarily wonderful class. And I hardly know where to begin. It may be in part because I am just completing a very successful Ekadashi Vrata, but this class for me was absolutely stunning. I felt that Krishna was directly speaking to me through your mouth. I was moved to tears through your class. I feel greatly indebted that you have blessed me with a bunch of precious gifts. More I can say than that, but it was precisely what I needed to hear today, and an answer to my prayers. Krishna directly reciprocating with me. I just want to thank you profusely. That was very wonderful. And I thank Saratma Prabhu for making so. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Did he put up YouTube? Okay, so I guess we should finish here.
Jaya Krishna, my name is Chintamani. I'd like to follow up with what Taraka Prabhu said. I also want to greatly appreciate you for taking the time to come to share with us the expression of your commitment to study and absorption in scriptures, and most importantly, from my experience, the combination of that with your heart. And I feel that the sincerity and heartfelt absorption that was reflected in your sharing has made a real impression in my heart. And also, I had a strong sense of courage. I think Sarama said a couple days ago that you weren't necessarily like excited about your class, but the fact that your love for Krishna and love for your spiritual master and love for the devotees had you make this offering makes it even more meaningful, because we can really see your heart and your love. And thank you for the point that you made about how merciful Krishna is to be the sweeper in our heart. And first he clears our ears and then he clears our heart. And I was, like taking some notes of things to think about. And the point that you reminded us of, that the two important aspects are to use our tongue in chanting and to use our tongue in anand prasadam. And if we're very committed to that, then all the other senses are controlled. So can you speak a bit more about Krishna as the sweeper in our heart? I would like a more deeper impression of that in my consciousness so I could become even more serious. Even more serious about my chanting, more deeper absorption in my chanting.
I believe that is Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Shikshashtaka purport, is it right? Or did I heard it from Rshabhadeva?
Has a comment on Shikshashtaka.
Yeah, but I believe that it's in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Shikshashtaka. Unfortunately, I didn't look it up for this morning. Honestly, I fumbled my way. I don't know if you understood, but I kind of messed up a little bit here, and I ended up just talking whatever came to me, and that was one of the points that came to me. So I didn't look up the exact reference for this. However, it's not so difficult to find. And I can send it to Sarvatma Prabhu later on, and then you can read it for yourself. How is that? Does that work?
Yes, thank you so
much. This is the main point that I remember, that Krishna himself takes not even Krishna himself, the holy name himself takes the form of the sweeper in the heart. This is what I remember. I always find it was very fascinating for me how, it's like Mahaprabhu is coming, take. And they say that sometimes that Lord Nityananda is putting it in your hand and closes your fist, so that you don't let it go, because otherwise, Kali Yuga specimen after all. But I can look this up and give you the exact reference for this.
Thank you so much.
Haribol, Krishna-Kunda, Natagoranga.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, so nice to see you. My goodness. And it's so nice to hear you. The Brahmana's wife. Beautiful.
Did you get my message?
No, I don't think so.
I wasn't sure you used that. It's okay.
No, I
was just thanking you for your session the other day. I really needed it. I was terrified of today, and I really needed some emotional support.
Well, I was just appreciating that point you made about controlling the mind and emotions, and serving our spiritual master. How when we invest our emotions in serving our spiritual master, then that actually helps us, to relieve us of any emotional challenges we may be experiencing. And I want to thank you and your wonderful husband. You are beautiful. He's wonderful, for being such examples, for all of us, of really taking your Guru Maharaj's mood and just just taking his, just what he wanted. Thank you both so very much for continuing in his service, carrying on his legacy. Thank you.
He hears it.
I'm sorry I missed his class. I wasn't around. But anyway, we know he's, he's the he's the giver of classes.
That's his service. That was given to him by our Gurudev.
Yeah.
His service is just to speak about Krishna and write about Krishna.
Haribol. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Really appreciate being here with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And hearing from you. Thank you.
Well, I guess you did it and you survived your own class, which is a good
I
thing.
wasn't sure that I would, even half an hour ago.
That was great. I was right. I'm not always right. I'm hardly ever right, but this time I was right to get you to speak to us, as you are a jewel among jewels, and I hope you can do it again sometime. Just, you can't be shy. You have a gift, and if you don't share it, it will shrivel. So it's your duty when you get some blessings to share it with others. So this is your blessing, that you can reach people's hearts and minds. All right, now, as it's customary, we'll ask all the devotees to unmute themselves and thank you personally. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much,
Hare Krishna.
Mata.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare
thank you
Krishna,
so
Hare
much,
Krishna,
Mataji.
thank you.
Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.
Such a beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, devotees. Stay tuned for the next one. Hare Krishna. Besides the regular classes, Akanda Prabhu is giving class on Saturday. I will send a message.